What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Like, share, subscribe, comment. I just hit top bottom of the video. It was gonna hop right into it. So today we will be talking about rich and unemployed. So if you haven't heard the news, Rich and Unemployed, to start with, Rich and Unemployed is a podcast by Jonathan Du Dupaton. I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to say his name like that, but that's his name. Dupaton. That sound right. That sound right. But Jonathan Dupaton has now been indicted on a $10 million unemployment scam. So I'm not usually sometimes I sit here and screenshot and go through the indictment and thing like that for you, but I basically just went through it or listened to it and wrote down key details. So I just break that down for you. So to start with, it's him and three other co-defendants. One, they also enlisted him in one of his aliases, which was Aaron Watts, and then the other three co-defendants is Kadir Williams, Emmanuel Dupaton, which I assume is probably his brother, because that's a unique last name, and Cameron Bell. So those are the four people being charged with this crime, and the crimes they are being charged with, and many counts of quite a few of them, is mail fraud and wire fraud conspiracy. Mail fraud, the mail fraud is because, well, the mail, well, let me say, I'll say it first and then I'll explain some of it later. So, mail fraud, wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and access device fraud. So, basically, what they did is they used issued debit cards, and this was during COVID. So they were doing, like I said, it's an unemployment scam. So they were getting money on these issued debit cards, which obviously is usually stuff like this, you get it directly to your bank account and things of this sort. So them, find a loophole and getting loophole and finding issue debit cards is definitely a unique twist on it. And obviously it helped the paper trail a little bit, but obviously not well enough. So they were getting these issued with these benefits during unemployment. And now, as like furlough, and the amount of money people were getting through unemployment during the pandemic was a lot higher than it usually is, for obvious reasons. But so this was definitely, a finesse that was very obtainable. Let me say that. So, what they end up doing and how they were, doing these things, they were using, obviously they were using other people's identities, and then, without authorization. 'Cause obviously these people not going for that and all that, but they were using other people's identities, and then obviously getting employment on these cards. And the amount of them is, we'll get into that in a couple of minutes, but it's absolutely ridiculous. And I already said it's a $10 million scam, but seeing it broken down is even crazier. So they also did, they helped encrypt and hide their data using VPN. That was pretty obvious, but and that was very pretty much obvious. So that's pretty much how they did it. So like I said, the mail and wire fraud conspiracy, this conspiracy part is pretty obvious. Mail fraud is obviously because they were using these issued debit cards and got sent them to locations, and now you're involving the United States Postal Service unknowingly. They're aiding and abetting, but so that's how they got mail fraud, wire fraud. I think that's a little more selfish. That's Well, wire fraud, obviously that's when anything with the, y'all know what the fuck wire fraud is. I don't even know why I said all that. But aggravated identity theft is self-explanatory, using other people's identities and things of that sort. And access to wire fraud, self-explanatory. So yeah, that is crazy as hell. So let me get into the amounts and the breaking it down a little bit, just the numbers a little bit, because I thought they were interesting. So they did show the amounts that was on these cards, that was transferred to these debit cards, and the mailing addresses of these, just because the mailing address is not really important, but you see many different addresses all over the Atlanta metro area. And yeah, so first one, August 23rd, 2020, the first amount would be 19,200. August 23rd, 2020, another card of 19,200. Another in August 23rd to another card of 19,200. So three different cards with 19,000 right there. That's what, about 57,000 if I'm doing my math correctly, over. So that's crazy. 57,000 in one day. September 9th, 2020, another 19.2. September 10th, 2020, 21, $20,100. September 14th, 2020, 20,100. That's crazy. Another September 16th, 2020, 19,200. So that's legit almost, over 80,000 in a span of a week right there. September. I overspoke. Next, September 21st, 2020, 19,200. So that's basically 100,000 in the span of like a week and a couple of days. That's crazy as hell. October 4th, 2020, 19,200. October 13th, 2020, 19,200. October 16th, 2020, 20,100. October 27th, 2020, 19,200. So yeah, that's how they were doing it. And they said in this part of it they was transferring approximately 3 million to those debit cards that we just counted, or I don't know where the other 7 million came from, but them boys is cooked. So if they are convicted, they have to give everything back they obtained using this money. So obviously if they bought cars, or even if they went in businesses and all things of that, it has been ceased and things of that sort. So niggas is cooked. Not gonna lie, if they get convicted. Only thing, like I said, the head guy, not the head guy, but Jonathan Dupaton is probably the one with the most clout that we know is on this case. And this is actually not his first time doing it. So I will tell you, back in 2017, Jonathan and Stephanie Dupaton, I don't know if that's his sister or his a wife, but he was sentenced for using stolen identities to steal over $395,000 from the U.S. Department of Agriculture Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, as y'all probably would know him better as. They said the defendants illegally obtained SNAP benefits for themselves and then cashed them at stores they owned in several Georgia communities. They said over 800,000 in SNAP payments were deposited in the defendants' bank accounts, but DHS USDA were able to link 395,000 of their funds to 321 fraudulent SNAP accounts. So them niggas, and so I'm assuming they didn't have to get that back. So them niggas really, did they keep 400,000 from there? That's crazy as hell. So like they said, they had own convenience stores and things of that nature. So that's what they meant by putting stores back into it. Their convenience stores, obviously. So, and finally, it says Jonathan Dupaton, 28, of Atlanta, Georgia, was sentenced to 3 years, 9 months in prison. Stephanie Dupaton, 24, also of Atlanta, Georgia, was sentenced to 6 months in prison. Both defendants were also sentenced to 3 years of supervised release, a special assessment of $100, and ordered to pay $395,388.01 in restitution. Both defendants were convicted of conspiracy to commit wire and mail fraud in April 2017. After pleading guilty to these charges, Jonathan Dupaton was also convicted of aggravated identity theft, which carries a mandatory 2-year consecutive sentence. So this is somebody who has familiarity in doing this, and he did also, release a podcast, which basically like a jail call. It would respond to this, but this is somebody who has done this before, so not a first time offender. Even though these type of crimes really don't do a lot of jail time, but not a first time offender, especially a very similar method, and actually aggravated. Some of these charges is repeat, like the aggravated identity theft. It's gonna draw a little more time. So it ain't at this moment in time. I always tell niggas, I ain't really with the scamming shit. If you gonna do a hustle, I'm much more approve of getting off the block, because Uncle Sam come for his money one day. It might not be today, it might not be next week, shit, it might not be next year, but Uncle Sam coming for that money one day, and that nigga Jonathan Dupaton Day has came with Rich and Unemployed. So that's all I gotta say though. Like, share, subscribe, comment. IG TikTok bottom video, and we out.